I think the only challenge at the moment that we do have is with regard to the issue of court fees. As you are aware, most government departments now have been introducing court fees which are denominated in United States dollars, although as litigants, people are entitled to pay at the equivalent RTGS rate. And I believe that is the mid rate. I know Munyala has spoken about the issue of, when you spoke about the average rate, I think there is a mid rate which is published by the RBZ. So one would hope that that is the rate which is going to be applied even for the purposes of paying taxes. But I think the challenge now that we have with the court system, as I say, is the question of access to the courts. To what extent will litigants be able to access the courts? Because some of the fees are actually calculated on a sliding scale. So where you have a large claim which is denominated, whether it be in United States dollars or in RTGS, it can be a very large amount for a litigant to fork out, and yet they are trying to get redress. So we're hoping that the Judicial Services Commission will certainly look into that. With regard to the rate of the number of cases which come before the courts, obviously business people will have different experiences, and I think again it's an issue of to what extent are business people taking their complaints to the authorities and making sure that they are prosecuted. Because I think a lot of the time where you have challenges in the rate at which criminal matters are going to be prosecuted, that can also be a disincentive for business people to come forward. Because if matters are going to be continually remanded, or the state is not ready to prosecute a matter, then you do have a situation where business people will not be forthcoming because they feel that, look, they are having to waste a lot of time going to the courts, and yet the matters are not being prosecuted to finality. And then, of course, there is a perception, whether rightly or wrongly, that there are some perhaps people in society who are untouchables. So again, I think that can create problems for the economy. Those would be my contributions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. For someone who was put on the spot, it shows you are a senior lawyer indeed. Thank you. My one volunteer who volunteered, others were forced to answer or comment. Can we applaud this young man who will identify himself? Come on, do better. He volunteered.
Thank you, Dr. Sanakia. My input was on...
Sorry, your name. I need to know your name. Give
my
you
name
a
is,
prize after this.
My name is Richard Mawari. I'm with Stewart Bank.
Thanks.
Thank you. So my input, I think it was prompted from the presentation from Ephraim, where he mentioned that we only have 140 megawatts of installed capacity from renewable energy sources, or rather from solar. So I just prompted myself in my mind, and I did some quick numbers to say Zimbabwe is blessed to have quite a significant sunlight over the year. I think almost upwards of 2,500 hours in a year that we get. And assuming we put 100 square meters of rooftop solar, that should be enough to power at a ratio of one household one household with an installed capacity of 100 square meters should be able to give us or to power about 9 households. So it then appropriate me to say of the people who are doing their own investments, households who are doing their own investments in solar, does ZESA and ZERA have the visibility to say how much is the installed capacity? Because probably a significant portion of what we are lacking, especially during the day, we probably have it as wasted energy, probably by 3, 4, 5 of your neighbors. So I think in that respect, I know that ZESA did put out a notice sometime in December 2020 to the effect that people can come forward for the purposes of applying for net metering. But I think we need to have it as a legislation to say all EPC contractors that are in the market, or rather the people who are installing solar, have to do so through some sort of a licensing through ZERA or ZESA, such that these regulators we have visibility of who owns what and where. And probably we can go a step further to geomap every solar installation that we have around the town, such that we have visibility of it and we are able to plan around it and make sure that we ration accordingly. Because if you look at in developed suburbs, not of Samara Macho, probably we are looking at 20-30% of every household is some sort of installed solar capacity. And I think with better planning, I'm sure we could have done better than the 140 megawatts, which I believe is mainly companies that are doing those investments. But we can, at an individual level, I think we can be able to push that start and probably help us some way through the solution. Thank you.
Okay, I'm taking that as a comment, isn't it? Right. Well, I think in solar there's something called the irradiation reporting. So it's not necessarily the amount of sunlight that we have as a country that really determines the capacity of solar generation. You will find that generally for currently for the solar projects that are installed, in terms of conversion panel, it's around 28%. And that's why you find that with 50 megawatts, you probably need about 300 hectares, of land that you need to put the solar panels. If you go to South Africa, for example, you find that you have oscillating solar panels, which will actually try to be following the radiation, of the sun. So when you come back to domestic use and try to populate that, I think from an irradiation computation perspective, you will still not get a clear indication of how much is actually being, produced domestically. But I believe what we can learn from your contribution is that there is need for us obviously to reward those that are probably investing in like your geysers, where you're basically saying secluding certain places and saying or given a time frame to say by this time all households must actually be operating on geysers and things like that. Then you can populate the amount of power that you probably saved that could have actually been using your ZESA. But at this present moment, even the solar panels that we are using, there's a lot that still needs to be done from a conversion perspective.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Shanakira and the rest of the panelists. Quite an interesting discussion. My name is Leona. I'm with IFB Corporation. I head one of its SBUs, PE Plastics, very flexible packaging. Well, they say when you're coming up with a solution to a problem, the first stage is to define the problem. And I think looking at this survey, we have actually defined our problem as a nation. So let's not drop the ball. At this stage, I want to implore the ZNCC team, don't drop the ball yet. Let's go to the next stage until we come up with solutions. Rwanda has done it. Rwanda being a war-torn country before, but look where they are today. They're actually taking people from us. They've been hiring teachers. Now we're losing teachers to Rwanda. If Rwanda can do it, if Kenya can do it, we certainly can do it too. We didn't talk, or Norway was mentioned, the issue of brain drain, but it's really one of the major challenges that we are facing. And so the longer we take to solve these problems, by the time we think we have come up with solutions, we will have missed out a lot of intelligent people, the millennials, all of them, they want to go out. Like recently, we've got nurses who are leaving the country for Europe. So we'll be losing people, and it's a worrisome issue that we need to take seriously. We can do it. Other countries are doing it. So I want to implore the NCC, please keep the ball up until we get to Mapena. Like His Excellency is always saying, we are the people. No one is going to come and find solutions for us. We are the people to do it. So would we actually be happy if you call us again in 4 months or 5 months' time to see a review of this? Where are we? How many issues have we addressed? And we tick the boxes. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think she wrapped it up very well for us. I've run out of time with my panel, and unless any of them have a pressing comment, he does. Thank you. Just 2 minutes max, and then we're going to hand back to our MC, Tamuka.
Okay, I just wanted to touch a little bit on I'd hoped that the Deputy Governor was going to be here when he spoke about having paid all the outstanding amounts. Obviously, I think from the other forum, government was committing to settlement, of contractors and all those that are owed in 30 days, and then Reserve Bank settling in 14 days. I think these settlement cycles have to be religiously adhered to, because they have also tax implications. I think the current tax regime is that you are taxed on the back of an invoice, not on the back of receipt. So the longer they take the settlement, the more challenges business is likely to face in terms of settlement of taxes. That's my comment.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you for your contributions. As a panelist, Chiedza, any closing remarks? We have these on the national team, the foreign-based player. So when they land, we want to extract as much as possible. Anything else, Chiedza, in closing?
I think I touched on all the main points in my initial statements, but I just want to kind of revert back to the energy argument. I think what Zimbabwe does have is not an energy problem, but an energy crisis, and we really should treat it as that. If you look at the situation in Western Europe in the wake of the Ukraine conflict, the rest of the sanctions regime was relatively easier to stomach for Western European countries, but the energy part of the equation is really straining governments there, and they're in panic mode, as we should be here as policymakers, even in South Africa should be as well. So yes, I 100% believe that all efforts right now should really go towards addressing the energy crisis. Yes, on the longer term, it's important to invest in renewables, but I still argue that as much as we're trying to decarbonize, we cannot ignore gas. That is the basis of how developed countries got industrialized. And even when we do pursue renewables, it's not just a solar story or wind story. we need to be able to store this energy. Zimbabwe has some of the largest lithium reserves in Africa. How can we develop those value chains? We need to dig into that. The other axis of storing renewable energy is also through hydrogen, through green hydrogen. And there are ways in which, Namibia, the likes of South Africa, are looking at storage solutions. Even in the United States, they store hydrogen in sort of salt mines and have converted the aging coal-fired power plants into hydrogen-fired power plants. So it's something that we can do. We don't have to throw away the infrastructure that we have in terms of the Bulawayo power station or the Harare power station that are lying fallow. Let us convert the infrastructure that we have to be modern, sustainable, green-facing, and kind of built and retrofit for the future. So I suppose those are the sort of last bits I wanted to touch on. And thank you all for lending me your ears as well.
Fantastic. When I was asking Chris about my panel, the foreign-based dynamite, thank you, kids. Stella, I want to get your surname right because we're going to be interacting a lot. So is it Ilieva?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry for mispronouncing it. So this is our local-based foreign player. Closing remarks. Stella.
Okay, what I want to say in closing is that I believe Zimbabwe has significant potential with its well-educated labor force, with its diverse natural resources, and when the policy environment is improved significantly, the country will be able to take advantage of this potential. And the lady said that, mentioned about the brain drain. When the economy starts growing sustainably, I think all these people will return to Zimbabwe. I've seen it in my own country when kids who graduated abroad and were working in Western Europe came back because they were getting even higher salaries than their parents, which is the first time it had happened. But because of these outsourcing activities, they were able to work in their own country where they have their support system. Thank you.
Fantastic. Stella Ilieva. Stella, which country is your country of origin? Now that we've gotten you local.
Bulgaria.
Bulgaria. So if Bulgaria could do it, we can did it too. We can did it too. And then our local-based, internationally renowned player, your final comments, my sister Maya.
Thank you, Doc. My parting shots, I think it's around policy consistency. To then say, as we put our policies in place, let's ensure that we are consistent. So that whatever is said behind the door is the same thing that is said behind the walls. So that at the end of the day, when we go to financial reporting, we then won't have these problems. And also I think the aspect of stakeholder engagements in as far as our policies are concerned, I think it is very important because that's where the solutions come from. We need to hear from everyone and see how best we can move forward. And lastly, as we put these solutions in place or as we implement them, let's ensure that they are not piecemeal. Because the moment we do them piecemeal, we may attend to a certain temporary problem that we have, yet we have got a long-term problem that we have. So I think those will be my parting shots.
Fantastic, thank you. And from your very local, rural-based Nigel Chanakira, I wish to thank you all. And back to you, MC Tamuka. Thank you.
Thank you.